Hey everybody, 2019 has been a big year for sports side-by-sides. We got new players from Honda with the Talon and Kawasaki with the KRX, and then you have this thing right here. That's the Yamaha YXZ XTR. Now the YXZ isn't new this year, but the XTR Special Edition package is. Now that we have three big sports side-by-side competitors from Japan, of course we have to compare them. So in this video, I'll show you footage from all over North America where I've driven these machines, and then we'll talk about which one is the quickest, which one handles the whoops the best, which one handles these East Coast trails the best, and then of course, which one is the most fun. What are we waiting for? Let's do it. Before diving into the details on this one, let's look over the spec sheet. Now, when it comes to power, these three are very evenly matched, with the YXZ and the KRX coming in with the same 112. Now for transmissions, each one takes a different angle, and we'll get back to that very soon. Now for suspension travel, the KRX offers the most of the bunch, followed by the Talon 1000R and then the YXZ. For ground clearance, the KRX is the winner with 14.4 inches. Now for tires, once again, the KRX has the biggest set here with its 31-inch Maxxis Carnivores. Looking at overall size, the KRX is the largest machine in this comparison. Now the Talon 1000R is just a shred wider at 68.4 inches, but it is not as long as the KRX, and then the YXZ is just 64.4 inches wide. Looking at the curb weights, the lightest machine here is the Honda Talon. Both the 1000X and 1000R are lighter than the YXZ XTR, which comes in at 1,624 pounds, and the KRX is the big boy of the group at 1,896 pounds.
Yamaha YXZ XTR. Now the XTR is the special edition model that they just brought out for this year, and although it is a lot of paint and plastic, it is a lot about the way these things look. There are a couple functional upgrades, the biggest of which have to be these 29-inch Maxxis tires. Now these are unique to the XTR model, so if you want these things, you have to get this special edition. So first of all, I want to talk about the transmissions in these machines because I think that's one of the biggest differences here. So in the YXZ, we have a 5-speed sequential shift manual transmission. Now, the manual is controlled by paddle shifters up here behind the wheel. The model I'm in, though, is what Yamaha calls the Sport Shift. So the Sport Shift is interesting. It's still not fully auto. You have to upshift for yourself, but the machine will downshift for you. So basically, if it's deciding that you're not hitting the idle RPM, if suddenly the RPM gets too low, it will always downshift, but it won't upshift. You got to grab this handle and make sure you upshift yourself. So how does this transmission actually feel? Well, first of all, let me say that slow speed smoothness, the YXZ has got to be the worst in this group. When you are just crawling along, or even doing some kind of tight, slow, technical crawling, it is harder in this machine than in both the KRX and in the Talon to keep things incredibly smooth. You have to be a lot more aware of it and make sure your throttle inputs are just really gentle, or else you definitely can't over rev this thing and it can kind of jump away from you a little bit. So that's sort of one of the disadvantages of this transmission. One of the advantages, though, has to be off the line, man. In first gear, this thing feels really, really good. It just takes off on you.
Smooth shifting is definitely the best way to describe the DCT in the Talon, and controlling it is a little bit different than in the YXZ. In the Talon, there is a full automatic mode or a full manual mode, but my favorite functionality is while you're in automatic, you can use the paddles to go upshift or downshift, and then just keep driving, forget about the paddles, and the automatic will take over once again. In the KRX, Kawasaki chose to go with the CVT. Now, of course, this has to be the smoothest transmission of the bunch, there's no doubt about that, but it is a pretty typical CVT in that it revs up quite quickly, but the power delivery feels like it takes a few beats before it really comes on strong. One of the best functions on the KRX, I think, is the low power mode. Now, this really just dulls the throttle response and allows you to be a little more precise with the throttle, and it will make sure that you'll never get any jumpy or harsh movements out of this machine. Not only is it good for slow speed maneuverability around a yard, but it's also great when you're out rock crawling. Neither of the other two units can possibly deliver the smoothness that the KRX does. So there is downsides to the CVT, that would be off the line speed, but overall the CVT does a nice job at keeping things ultra smooth.
So the actual shifts here in the YXZ are incredibly fast, and I know, Honda boasts about the dual clutch, but I don't know, in practice, I feel like this thing shifts just as quickly as the Honda. Although, again, the shifts are definitely more abrupt here. You feel them more. They affect sort of the balance of the chassis while you're coming through a corner or something. Whereas with the DCT and the Talon, the shifts are almost imperceptible. They really are that smooth. That's not the case here in the Yamaha. Of the three, to me, this one feels the most raw, the most visceral. And the reason for that is because of the transmission. It's banging around and you can really grab, harsh downshifts. But also the steering and the handling. The steering here, once again, has to be my favorite of the group. It's not adjustable. There's no settings for it, nothing like that. It just is what it is. Now, it's light enough here on the YXZ to make sure that you're not getting, too many big bumps right through to your hands when you're on the trail, but it's heavy enough to give you that really direct connected feeling. I would say the YXZ probably has the roughest ride of the three. This thing feels a little bit stiffer, and you are banging around a little bit more in this machine than you are in the others.
Now, the steering in the Talon is a little bit lighter than the Yamaha, but still pretty good. Sadly, the steering in the KRX, in my opinion, is a little over boosted, and it could definitely use more feedback. How does the suspension compare? In the Talon 1000X, I know the numbers don't quite match up to the YXZ, but honestly, the Talon feels a little bit softer. It feels like the suspension does a better job at swallowing up the terrain. The YXZ definitely is the harshest ride of these three. Now, the Talon 1000R, the suspension there is pretty good out in the whoops, but honestly, the suspension underneath the Kawasaki KRX is incredible when you're out in the open desert. On the whoops, this machine stays really flat, really composed. There's nothing else here that compares to it when it comes to absolute high speed flying through the whoops.
Of the three, I'd have to say that the KRX has probably the most comfortable interior. It allows for a ton of leg room, so you can really push that seat back and feel like you're stretched out, which is a nice feeling.
For handling, the Talon feels very sharp as well, especially the 1000X, but even the 1000R, because of that lower curb weight, it still feels pretty sharp when you turn into a corner. The KRX definitely shows its weight, and you feel it in the handling. It feels like it wants to push a bit wide through the corners, and it just does not come across feeling as sharp as the other two units.
So here we are on our straightaway. Let me open it up. The power to weight just feels incredible. When you mash it, man, this thing takes off. And once again, that is the benefit of having a real transmission. The Talon has the same thing. where down low, the power's right there because the first gear is able to be so low, whereas with the KRX, the power is there, but it's not there right in the low end when you punch it. When you punch the Kawasaki, you really feel the RPM and the CVT, climb and start working, and then the machine sort of catches up. It feels like the power comes on in the mid-range, not down low. Here in the YXZ, over in the Honda with real transmission, the power just shoots you off the line. And the best thing here, grab a downshift. Oh, that actually is so much fun.
Now we have to talk pricing. So first, the Kawasaki KRX, there is only one model. In the United States, it will sell for $20,499. In Canada, $26,999. The Talon 1000X starts at $19,999 US, while the 1000R is $1,000 more at $20,999. In Canada, Honda only sells the Talon 1000X for $26,999. Finally, the Yamaha YXZ has a base price of $18,999 US dollars, but for the XTR model that we reviewed in this video, you're talking about $21,699 US dollars. In Canada, the YXZ starts at $27,699 and the XTR is just a little bit more at $28,099 Canadian. So here's the verdict. If I was riding exclusively in the open desert, I would definitely buy a Kawasaki KRX. But here at home, I'm always in the forest, so honestly, if I was spending my money, I would go with the Yamaha YXZ. Sure, the numbers don't stack up on paper, but this machine has this incredible raw feeling to it that you just have to experience to understand. And it's for that reason that I think I would be very happy to bring home this Yamaha. So guys, that's it for this video. Make sure you go below, leave a comment, let me know which one of these side-by-sides you like the most and you think would work for you. And as always, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and then come back to the channel for the latest news, views, and real-world reviews. See ya.